Southern Tennessee Regional Health System. Pulaski is here to help you be well. Our mission is to make our community healthier, and we're your community hospital. We're committed to providing trusted care when you need it most. From wellness checks to emergencies, we're here for you and your family. Visit us today at southerntennessee.com or call 931-363-7531.
When it comes to real estate, Haney Realty and Property Management is the team you can trust. Our extensive knowledge of the market and industry allows us to help our clients with any real estate need. We know how to get results. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, let us put our expertise to work for you. Call us today at 931-347-9150 or visit HaneyRealtyPem.com to learn more. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate. If you're looking for a new job, let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255.
For over 50 years, PES Energize has been proudly powering our community in Pulaski and Giles County, Tennessee. We're more than just an electric utility. We also offer internet, TV, and phone services. Our commitment to our customers and our community is what sets us apart. We're dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and innovative services. At PES Energize, we believe that serving you is a privilege. We're here for all your energy needs. Visit PESEnergize.com or call us.
The Natural Gas Department of Pulaski is here to help you save money. Natural gas is safe, efficient, and cost-effective. It's up to 50 to 60% less expensive than electricity for home heating. Plus, it's clean and efficient, so you can feel good about your choice. Call us today for service or visit our website to learn more. Make the switch to natural gas and start saving today.
You may have to make it one way. I don't have the answer. I'm just saying, be aware of that. And the next time that we ask somebody comes in to you guys and wants to do more housing, which is a really good thing. It's definitely not against that. Just look at the roads also going into that location, because that's a very narrow road if you're passing. And the muck trucks and the concrete trucks that are coming through, very big. So as we are going back and forth, I also included a copy of where you could see the pink circled is Billy Brown's area that he's building. And there is just one place. It's off the Mine Hill Highway on Gordon. As you're coming up to that stop sign, the road's messed up pretty bad. So it just needs addressing. That's all I have to say. Anybody got any questions?
Where's that road messed up at, Miss Bryant?
Like when you're coming off of the Mine Hill Highway
Yes,
on
ma'am.
Gordon, before you get to that first stop sign,
Yes, ma'am.
it's right there.
Gotcha.
And there's some trees that overhang on the road that probably needs to be looked at too. Anyway, just to make you aware. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Bryant.
Thank you, honey.
Do we have any other comments? If not, we'll go into item number 4, is to open bids on Magazine Road tennis court rehab and new tennis courts. Mr. Harrison?
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we have no bids, so I don't know what we can do other than rebid it and change the times. Jeannie, you got any suggestions?
I do not, just so everyone's aware, we made it so that there was no time restriction this time instead of holding them to the November 1st deadline. And we also offered a total of $20,000 in a bonus to finish early, partially with the university investment. And we still don't have any bids. We removed all the fees required for them to be a bidder. I feel like we've done everything we can to kind of get people to jump in. I don't know if it's just, I personally think, based on just working in construction all day, every day, that people are just too busy. And like a lot of the contractors said, we would be lucky to get it built at this time next year.
We also had UT Southern refer potential bidders to Ms. Keel's firm, and we made sure they got plans of the specs to bid on it, and they didn't bid also.
We sent the bid on the specs and plans all the way to Florida. So I mean, we really tried hard to find people to bid. We can bid it again later. You know, it's gonna be hard to get somebody to come in and pay before the plants close in November. Another option would be, you know, a full redesign if you wanted to go concrete, but it'll definitely increase your cost. I mean, it will increase the cost significantly to change the design to post.
Well, at this point in time, we're not gonna have them completed before the time that they would like to have them done.
That's right.
I think it worthwhile, we may have another conversation with UT Southern, but at this point, I think we'd be better off to put it off till next spring, because, you know, obviously, within a couple of months, about 3 months, the asphalt plants will be closing until about April, about mid-April. So you're not gonna get that work done also. Also during the winter months, we have heavy rains. As Lane can tell you, we got a lot of water over there at times, especially during the winter months. It's not a good time to do the excavation work during the winter times. So I would like permission to get back to UT Southern, have a conversation, and report back to you. But it'd be my opinion, we put it off to the spring, because you don't need to be working over there in the winter and the asphalt plants being closed. We're just not getting anything done during the winter on the tennis court.
Let's set up a meeting with UT Southern, just have them back up here, and let's sit down and talk with them. Any suggestions they may have, and how we can move forward. If they, you know, we want to convene it on the best we can. Obviously, we can't help, we don't have any bidders, but we need to, let's have that conversation with them.
And Jenny, this does go out, and I guess like the Dodge report and things
Yes.
like that people are in this business, they look at those things every day about what's out there, so.
We did have at least seven contractors contact us about it, and we still didn't have anybody show up to bid, so, and like I said, we sent the plans out to everybody, even in other states, and didn't get any responses, but I think if we open bids possibly in February, it would get on people's schedule for next year. If we wait until it's open, we're already gonna be behind their scheduling, so when we meet with the college, maybe we'll talk about opening again in February.
Or we could possibly look at bidding it out, maybe during the winter, but put in the specs. We wouldn't award it till
Yeah.
1st of March or something like that. And then that way, maybe get in front of anybody else that might be looking for this type of work to be done.
All righty. So we'll go on to item number 5 is the authorized sale of surplus property, water and police on gov deals. Mr. Harrison?
Water department has an old ditch witch that not in working condition, and they want to get rid of it. And Chief's got some police cars we're going to put on gov deals and get rid of those.
I move that we authorize the sale of the surplus property.
Second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Keith and a second by Mrs. Miles. Is there any discussion?
Was it 4 cars?
Well, this is to get rid of the other vehicles.
Oh,
The next one is the 4 cars.
okay, okay.
Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Miles,
Aye.
Worsham,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Gentry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Brindley.
Aye. Item number 6 is to authorize purchase of police cars. Mr. 4 in budget. Mr. Harrison?
Yeah, we got 4 in the budget, 3 is coming from the general fund and 1 from the drug fund, and we will contact the local people first and see if they can supply them. If not, we'll go with government.
State contract, not gov deal, state contract.
That's the same thing.
I move that we authorize.
Hey, we
Buy our old ones back.
buy those you're listing, save a lot of money.
And repaint them, send them back.
Well, we said in 3 Fords and buy 4 new Dodges, that's how that should matter.
I move that we authorize
Sheriff back
purchase
there,
of
he said
these
we could
police
borrow
cars.
some of his.
We got a motion made by Mr. Keith,
Second.
second by Mrs. Miles. Is there any discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Miles,
Aye.
Worsham, Keith,
Aye.
Gentry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Brindley.
Item number 7 is consider ordinance on first reading relative to amending the 2023/24 budget. Mr. Harrison?
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's the last meeting I talked to you about putting more money in the defined benefit plan, and y'all approved that. But that would exceed our budget for that expense, so I've just amended the budget to show that increased appropriation to the defined benefit plan.
Move to approve this ordinance on first reading.
Motion made by Mr. Keith and a second by Mr. Worsham. Is there any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Miles,
Aye.
Worsham, Keith,
Aye.
Gentry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Brindley.
Item number 8 is to amend the parade permit for Cruising for Cody /GCHS band for October 14th, 2023.
And all this is doing is adding the Giles County High School band competition on that same day.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, I have a motion made by Mr. Keith and a second by Mrs. Miles. Is there any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Massey? Massey? Miles?
Aye.
Worsham? Keith?
Aye.
Gentry? Bryant?
Aye.
Brindley.
The item number 9 is consider application for a parade permit for Giles County Veteran Services for November 11th, 2023.
This is their annual Veterans Day celebration, and the application is in order.
Move we approve.
Second.
We have a motion made by Mr. Worsham and a second by Mrs. Miles. Any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Massey? Miles?
Aye.
Worsham? Keith?
Aye.
Gentry? Bryant?
Aye.
Brindley.
Item number 10 is to adopt resolution relative to appropriating up to $750,000 to the Industrial Development Board. Mr. Pierce.
Ladies and gentlemen, Phil Reese with our Economic Development Commission has been working, reaching out to the various state agencies that can help us in economic development and recruitment. And the Department of Economic and Community Development has had a program for some years for site development, but the money could not go for a spec building, and they would only go up to $1 million. This year, they've got a pool of $35 million. You can apply up to $5 million, and it can be used for a spec building. We're a Tier 2 county. Normally, the match is 30%. Because this is a new program, they're gonna lower it to 30%. Lower it from 30 to 15%. And so the match for a $5 million grant would be $750,000. What I'm asking this board to do is adopt this resolution, making this appropriation to IDB, so we can get this application in. I think the deadline's the 25th.
Yeah, it's Friday.
It's Friday to get it in.
To get the letter of intent in, the grant
Right.
process will
And-
carry on a few weeks later.
We expect to ask the county to pay for half of this. And we feel confident that they would want to participate in this endeavor. But since we meet more frequent than they do, this would give us the opportunity to have this in place. So Phil could get with the grant writers, we're working with South Central Tennessee Development District, get all the paperwork ready to apply for this, because we've met with those representatives. They think this is a really good application, and we have a lot of hopes we'll get this grant.
Didn't the county commission meet last night? Did you mention this to them by any chance?
Well, I met, Graham and I talked about it before, because he's part of the executive committee for the ID, or
Yeah.
for the EDC, so we talked about it before. He feels like supported with all, if you watched the meeting last night, you know all they had going on, and so what he said was, I don't want to go, when we're arguing about, where money's gonna go, try to work this issue then, and he also need to get a little more time to discuss it, and so it didn't come up specifically. I did mention in the meeting that we're looking at this grant, and there would be a 15% match, but didn't get into the specifics around that.
Yeah, and the application had to be in. I mean, that seems to me like that would be a rather timely thing for them to step up and do.
Well,
If you watched the meeting last night, it may not.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
another way to look at this, if we can get a $5 million spec building built for $750,000,
We're doing very well.
Buy all of those I can get.
Yeah, Mr. Reese has worked extremely hard. This, and Marilyn as well. This isn't an easy process to do this, so we
I
appreciate
move
it.
that we adopt this resolution.
Second.
A motion made by Mr. Keith and a second by Mrs. Miles. If there's no other discussion, roll call vote.
Massey, Miles,
Aye.
Worsham, Keith, Gentry, Bryant, Brindley.
Item number 11 is to adopt resolution authorizing the mayor and city recorder to enter into an agreement with Barge Design Solution, Inc. relative to the landfill site engineering services.
We've got a pump and treat system out there at the landfill that takes water out of the wells and sends it through a system of lagoons. And it doesn't work very well. Originally, they put in a Venturi type system. We want to put in submersible pumps, and we need to pay Barge to design these pumps. They're only got to be like 5 horsepower submersible pumps with float valves on them. But we want them to design those, and we're gonna put them in. We'll get the PES to help us run the electricity over to them, to help better manage these wells and hopefully reduce the amount of testing we have to do every year. So eventually, we hope this will save money instead of cost money.
Is there a number we're looking at?
They're gonna charge at their hourly rate, and they have submitted a schedule. We don't think it's gonna be that much. I mean, John Green's been working with me on this, and I mean, all engineering firms want a contract now before they do any work. Jason Rapture's the one we've been working with. He was with Grisham Smith and Partners years ago, and I think he he said there was one guy over him in the firm, so he's pretty high up. We've got a good working relationship with him. I don't expect it to be a whole lot of money, but I'd say probably under $10,000.
It's, just a ballpark figure is helpful. Thank you.
I move we adopt this resolution authorizing the mayor and city recorder to enter into this agreement.
We have a motion made by Mr. Massey,
Second.
second by Mrs. Miles. Is there any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Massey,
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
Worsham,
Aye.
Keith, Gentry, Bryant, Brindley.
Item number 13 is old business. Do we have any old business?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I was skipping one, my bad.
They're the same company.
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. Item number 12 is adopt a resolution authorizing the mayor and city recorder to enter into an agreement with Barge Design Solution, Inc., relative to demolition of the appertaining building.
And I don't want you to think we said, well, we'll do this, we'll just let them do that. John also talked with a couple of different firms, had asked monetarily about what they would charge. Barge Design was cheaper by $3,000 or $4,000.
Barney only 50.
Only 50. Okay, now this was like 13,000, and this is putting the specs together to demolish the appertaining building. We went ahead and awarded the contract with Tiny's. We did a asbestos study, and if you look at the front of the building, the sheathing out the front does have asbestos in it. We've contracted with this Tiny's excavating demolition company to remove that, properly dispose of that. Now Barge will draw up the specifications. We'll put it out for bid. Cross our fingers, we'll get a bidder on it to take the building down and properly dispose of it.
I move we adopt this resolution.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion made by Mr. Keith and a second by Mr. Bryant. Is there any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Massey.
Aye.
Miles.
Aye.
Worsham.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Gentry. Bryant. Brindley.
Aye. Item number 13 is old business. Do we have any old business?
Well, I have just a little old business. It's more of a reminder. You know, we're processing the Coffee with a Cop in September. We have 3 different businesses that will present coffee and a sweet, and people can just stop in and say hello to the police, fire department, say thank you very much for what you do in our community. And I just want to put it out there, the dates, so that you can look at your calendar. You'll want to attend all of these. The coffee and sweet is free. And of course, we'll have all of our very best looking police officers.
It just be me.
So, put this on your calendar, either the three Thursdays in September would be September 14th, September 21st, and September 28th. And they will be at different locations, so you'll definitely want to stop in and get your favorite coffee and some sweet. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Miles, for heading this up. Any other old business? I've got something under new business here. I've been, for a little time, talking with the owners of the Merco property, as Mr. Worsham said, the old shoe factory here. It's right beside our high school and our Sam Davis ballpark, and it's 4.8 acres. It's a lot bigger site than I think a lot of people realize. That property I know was in negotiations a long time ago, and so I've been back and forth negotiating with the owners on this property, do this, and we reached an agreement that they would sell, and they would sell at $475, and we would be buying the property as is, but that would we would have you know, obviously there's not much left of that old building. It would be a building that would have to come down as well. But as we talk about the future of how we're gonna move forward, if it could be, and nothing's in concrete, I would, if we do this and as we go on with tearing down the old Abertane building, it's almost having a city, a town hall meeting one night to get the interest of the citizens to see what they would like to see. Not to say that's exactly what we're going to do, but we would listen and see what people are saying. But that could be a new rec center one day there. That could be an event center there. It could be ball courts. It could be parking that we desperately need for our football fields and our baseball fields. I think it's a great opportunity. It's definitely a lot less the price of what it started at. Again, it's been a lot of negotiations on this, but
the biggest need we need for is parking for the splash pad.
Yeah. But it's I know again, it's 4.8 acres.
I would make a motion that on behalf of the city that we make an offer of $475,000 for that property.
We have a motion made by Mr. Keith.
I'll second.
A second by Mr. Gentry.
Now, how's that working into our budget?
Well, we'll have to amend the budget again, but that's the reason the comptroller's office allows you to amend the budget from time to time.
Yeah, you're good with that.
I'm good with that. I mean,
We don't.
what we have to look at is not only the needs today, but what are the needs of the future.
Right.
Yeah.
And to find 4.5, 5 acre sites inside the corporate limits of Pulaski are very hard to find, and it might be 5 years from now or 10 years from now that we decide exactly, who knows? Might be next week we decide what to do with it.
One of the ugliest pieces of property in downtown Pulaski.
Right.
The city needs that.
And
Of all the pieces that's in town, the city needs that particular piece of property.
But I told JJ we could possibly go back, if we close this deal or have a closing pretty soon, go back to Barge and ask them to include that, put them out together, and then the people that do that business would, just get them all knocked down at the same time.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless for this, and we've got to, whatever we do, we got to keep the kids in mind, and if it's a rec center, whatever it may be, we have the land to do it on now. Even though we have some land now, but our options we'd be sitting really good with this piece of property.
Yeah.
Well done, JJ.
Yeah, well, thank you. We have any other discussion? If not, roll call vote.
Massey?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
Worsham?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Gentry? Bryant?
Aye.
Friendly?
Aye. Any other new business? If there's no other business come before the board today, we'll stand as adjourned. And we'll open up to hearing to the beer board as a beer in session now. The hearing relative to Honeysuckle Market / Shell Station, Mr. Dale Basta, permit holder for 715 North First Street, Pulaski, Tennessee, violation of probation. Mr. Dickey, Mr. Dewar.
Okay. I'll be real brief. Christie's put me on the timeline exactly like about a couple of weeks ago, so I'll make it brief.
Chief, before we start, if I'd asked for, if you haven't noticed, my court reporter's not here today. That's because this is a relatively shorter notice than we had last time. I'd asked Mayor Brindley whether or not that y'all would entertain that. I did not get the sense that that was the consensus, but I would renew that request before we start. Mr. Bass is already on a 30-day suspension. It's not as though he would sell any beer between now and when we were able to come back. But like I said before we start, I do want to put that on the record and ask y'all face-to-face whether or not that'd be something you'd entertain to pass this to September the 12th. I think that's the next meeting.
I would not. I mean, we
I
certainly,
think we
I
had
think
it
we made a
recorded on-
compromise last time, and the first day out of the box, boom, does it again. I'm sorry, I just have no patience.
I understand, Ms. Miles.
That's my personal opinion.
All right, that's fine.
One vote.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay, so we were here on August the 8th, and then, of course, you know, you heard the evidence that was presented in that, and as a result, Mr. Bassett was placed on a 30-day suspension, a $10,000 fine, which he paid that day, and then a year's probation. And then he was also given to the following Tuesday, I think on the 15th, to shut down beer sales, and he has complied with that, to my knowledge. But prior to that, during that week's time of allowing him time to liquidate some of his inventory, he had, now, one of the conditions on the last deal was that he terminate Mr. Pellegrin, who had been a name that was brought up and had more than one violation down there and was the subject of the hearing 2 weeks ago. So he terminated that employee as well as part of the condition of the settlement or the agreement in that. Okay, so he terminated him and he hired a new employee, and to my understanding, she started employment last Friday a week ago. It was Friday a week ago, not this past Friday, but Friday a week ago following that 8th meeting of the beer board. And on that Friday, Investigator Thomas, where did I see him? Okay, Mike over here, he was able to go in, and his informant was able to go in underage, I think 18 years old, go in and purchase alcohol from this employee on Friday, and then again the following Monday. And of course, we had a work session that Monday night. I believe it's right. And we talked about it or whatever, and then we set this thing up for a hearing, or the following Monday had a hearing or a work session. But so in doing so, during that time, since that's happened, Mr. Baxter volunteered to come in and talk with Lieutenant Turner and I, and he disclosed some things, and I'm sure that they'll bring that out as far as what actions he's taken or what happened or what led into that, and I'm sure y'all will have that. But anyway, so that's really where we're at as far as you want to bring this back for review, and understand that it would be on his, him, you'd have to determine, I guess, when everything's said and done today, is determine if he allowed those sales, if he permitted that to happen, because it was done by the clerk. And then there may be some other things as far as the law is written. There's some question about that, but that's not for me to really get into. So that's where we're at. So I'll turn. And I don't know if y'all want to hear from Mike that he's conducted these entire investigations on this. So I don't know if y'all would like to hear from him. So if you got any questions from him, I'd ask him to come up here if you do. But that's pretty much it. And of course, I have copies of the citations that was issued to the employee down there, and it's my understanding now that employee as well has been terminated. Is that right?
It's not right.
It's not right. The new employee hadn't been terminated. This newest employee,
she's sitting right there, John, in the pink shirt.
And you wasn't terminated.
No, she didn't. Yeah, I told you. I I will fire her, but can I talk?
But let's.
Well, hold on a minute, and I'll sit down. So that's okay. That's another part to the puzzle here.
Okay, she was cited on both occasions.
Right.
So cited on Friday night. And
No. She wasn't cited until sometime, Mike, you have that. She wasn't cited until after the second, on Monday. The second violation, the most second recent violations, those two, she was cited after that. They knew nothing about the first violation until she was cited for the first one and the second. Is that right? Right. Okay. So, but my understanding, I was led to believe the other day that you took the necessary precaution that it wouldn't happen again and terminated her. So that might give you a little bit more to rely on as far as permitting the sale, because that's still in place to permit it down in the future. That just changes things a little bit, but that's where we're at.
Could we get Mike to explain exactly what happened in both of those circumstances?
Mike, you want to? Do you need to reference these?
Right. So I'm working with an informant, 18-year-old. We meet these informants. We search them. We search their vehicle. We issue them money to make the purchase. We issue them an audio, video camera, and then we send them to the location. We follow them, we watch them go in, watch them come out. They meet us back. We collect what they purchased. We search them again, search their vehicle again, make sure there's nothing else in there, and then we do our paperwork. So this happened on the first date. When it happened, the 11th, she actually, on the video, she asked the informant, "You look a little underage, let me see your ID." So the informant shows the ID, she still sells. It plainly shows on the ID under 21 until such and such date. So on the second date, on the 14th, sent the informant back, she didn't even ask for an ID. She just sold.
That's pretty blatant, especially when there are already some questions about whether they should have a license period after selling it several times.
Correct. So she asked, her words were, "You look a little underage, let me see your ID." Informant shows the ID, because the way the law is, if they're asked for an ID, they show their ID. It's the real ID, it's not a fake ID, it's their Tennessee issued driver's license. The informant showed it, she rang it up. So, and on the second go around, she didn't even ask. She just sold it.
And she wasn't aware of the first
No, sir.
occurrence until you cited her for both.
Correct. And I cited her on the 15th, is when I cited her. Last year.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. If anybody has any other questions.
No, I don't, but how hard is it to check an ID? I mean, that should be very, very simple. I did some research on this, and in my opinion, the number one killer of teenagers in the state of Tennessee is drunk driving. And I know, as Mr. Woodward says, September 15th. That's a no for me. Whatever we're gonna do, we need to do it today.
Did the driver's license that was presented, I'm sorry, Randy.
That's okay, go ahead.
It said under 21. Am I
Right under
correct
the
about
picture, it
that?
says under 21
Under 20.
until.
Go ahead, Randy, I'm sorry. I just had to ask that one more question.
I feel like whatever we gonna do, we need to do it today. If we continue to let this happen, and don't send out, and if we don't send out a good signal to say the city of Pulaski is not gonna tolerate this. First of all, in my opinion, we gave the gentleman an opportunity to sell beer when we issued the beer license. Now in my opinion, he don't respect that by selling to underage minors. And I think this location, in my opinion now, should not have the opportunity to sell beer for quite some time. Because if he don't respect it, why should we? So whatever we gonna do, I go for suspending this license. Last time I said a year. Now I'm really gonna stand behind it. Because we was up here August the 8th. That's 14 days ago. And we right back here again. Matter of fact, in my opinion, his probation didn't even get 14 days, let alone a year, because he was on probation for a year. But 14 days, that's violated.
And you go out to Walmart, it don't matter what your age is.
Yeah.
They ask for your ID.
Yeah.
Mike, just so I can understand procedure, why was a citation not issued after the first, on the 11th? Why did we wait?
We were doing I did other stores too. I actually did 9, and I went back, and so I waited till I got all of those done before I issued the citation.
Were there other citations with all of these that you?
Okay, so I did 9 stores. I did some in the county, some in the city. All the ones in the county, I went and revisited from a prior instance I had on selling vapes. So I went and tried to buy beer. All of those ID would not sell. I did have others in the city that failed. One being bad habits, and then the H&P at 7th College. Those two failed. Bad habits, the first.
Mike, was it Bull Market or H&P?
Both.
Both, man, Bull Market too, Bull Market also.
We need to have them up here.
But was that for alcohol or for vapes?
Alcohol. This time was all alcohol.
So it was H&P, Bull Market, and Bad Habits.
On bad habits, the same, the one clerk there asked for the ID, same ID, looked at it, so went back a second time and he didn't ask. Bull Market, twice there, didn't even ask. That one was a little, ended up at that store was actually a 17-year-old that sold there. So it shouldn't even be selling beer, but I'm dealing with that.
We ought to name the ones that fail the test. They should be called bad habits too, because they got a bad habit of selling to under 18 age.
Well, all of those need to appear here.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
that's another issue.
So I did a total of 9 stores altogether, and the only ones that I had to sell was the ones here in town, the Bad Habits, H&P, Bull Market.
Well, I done told you how I feel about it. It's up to the rest of the board to speak to
I
it.
have one follow-up. So you have done citations for those 3?
I cited the one at Bull Market yesterday, and I'm citing the others today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Dewar, you have something?
Mike, I was really hoping you were going to let me tell them about the other stores. I guess if you'd have asked me a year ago how many city council meetings you're going to go to next year, it would have been 2, and it certainly would have been 2 in August. But here we are. You know, I hate coming before any deciding group, judge, whatever it may be, hat in hand, but I kind of feel like that's where I am today. As both Chief Dickey and Investigator Thomason told you, we were here 2 weeks ago on the 8th. We resolved the issues, at least we thought, as it related to Mr. Basta and Honeysuckle Market by requiring him to pay a $10,000 fine, which in my view was substantial, putting him on a 30-day suspension as far as his beer permit was concerned, firing John Pellegrin, who was the repeat offender, so to speak, in terms of who his clerks were. What you don't know is that he also fired another clerk named Rebecca Haggard, who was also cited prior to us being here last time. Mr. Basta, despite what you may already think, is taking this very seriously. He hired Miss Alex Henry, who's there in the pink shirt next to him today, on August the 11th, Friday, the same day that Investigator Thomason's investigation began. He sent the CIN, and as Investigator Thomason told you, she sold it to him. She asked for ID, but sold it to him anyway. I'm like you, why in the world would that happen, right? The ID clearly says under 21 on it, right? I don't know. I would say he has trouble hiring PhDs to work second shift at Honeysuckle Market. Full stop. Now that's not an excuse, but it's clearly not something that's contained to Mr. Basta. When right across the street at Bad Habits, the same thing happened. And right across town at Bull Market, the same thing happened. HP Market, the same thing happened. I know y'all are mad at Mr. Basta, but he called me about this the second time. I was mad at Mr. Basta. But then he calls me crying about it all, telling me he's doing all he can do. And I ask him, what is that? What are you doing? What is all you can do? He says, well, I've got this software. You have to key in the date, right? When you get up to buy the product, you key the date in and it says yay or nay. All right, you use that. I have been. Obviously it failed. The system failed. So let me see how it works. I came down there. So Mr. Basta showed me how this works. He rings up a pack of cigarettes, which I didn't know until that day. You also have to be 21 to buy now. I don't smoke. I didn't know. Handed him my ID. Wouldn't work. He scanned it. Wouldn't work. I've contacted the Department of Safety. I'm not suspended or anything like that. So I don't know what the issue was. But it was a failure in his system. The real question, as Chief pointed out, is whether or not he's permitting this to happen. whether or not he's wanting this to happen, whether he's encouraging this to happen. If I could show all y'all something that in my view is important, relevant, that I know you've already feel like you've already made up your mind about how this needs to go, but I know all of you to be open-minded people, so I'm going to ask you to consider this too. This is Mr. Bass's text messages with his clerk, Alex Henry, the new clerk. You'll notice the date at the top. I'm sorry, the time at the top. Here, Chris, did you want to? You're welcome. The date's found on, I think, page 3. Now, where is it?
Last page. Last page.
On the last page. Yeah, August 11th.
Same day.
10:29 p.m. Same day.
Thursday.
Same day that Mr. Basta hires Ms. Henry. Mr. Basta, who can't work 18 hours a day at a store, checking everybody's ID himself, who employs people in this community, sits at home watching his camera on his cell phone, texting her every time somebody comes up to the counter. Did you check this girl's ID? You check this person's ID? He's not permitting this to happen. There's a system failure that's occurred. It's obviously not occurred just at Mr. Basta's place. Mr. Basta employs people in this community. He employs people who, quite frankly, are bad down on their luck. They're bad down on their luck. He employs people that have nowhere to live. He helps them find homes. I'm not trying to excuse what's happened, but I am trying to tell you, Mr. Basta didn't tell Miss Henry, Miss Henry, no holds barred. Our suspension goes into effect on the 15th. Get rid of all the inventory. Sell it to whoever. Doesn't matter if they're a baby-faced teenager or not. Sell it to them. He can't be down there 18 hours a day. You can't. Nobody should expect that. I agree, Mr. Massey. We've got to figure out a solution to the problem. But obviously, finding him 10 grand, got his and suspended his license for 30 days, got his attention. He's sitting at home obsessively watching his clerk sell beer at night. The other wrinkle, and it's more of a legal wrinkle that I would raise, is that Mr. Basta has participated in the responsible vendor program. We talked about that a little bit last time. And under the statute, in my view, you're limited in your recourse, in that you can't suspend a responsible vendor, you can fine a responsible vendor. So I leave it to you. I hope that everything I've said, or something I've said, has resonated, because I kind of got the sense that each of you had already predetermined what the outcome would be. And I know all of you to be reasonable people and don't think you would do that.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If I was in trouble in my business, I would be requiring my employees to card every single person coming through the line. I don't see that here. It's a simple solution. If he catches somebody not pulling a license and not putting in the date,
Gone. Terminated.
that, yeah.
I'm with you. Okay. Look.
So why are we just doing 25?
Oh, I'll let Mr. Bassett speak to that. I don't know why 25. Why not 30? Why not 90? I don't know. I suppose if somebody comes in on a walker and white-haired,
I'm not.
that we should card them too. I don't know. But
I didn't see that on purpose. I'm not really very good in English, so I write the simple things she can understand me, just crossing the point. I didn't say only understood. I'm just, if I say everybody, if I say something else, she's gonna understand me. I'm just was crossing the point with the message. I was doing too fast because I was in the camera. At the same time, I was typing the message. So it's just. I don't mean that the word sir, you got in your mind. I'm just was like typing fast and to tell her something to have to read it. That's all. That's all I did. 25. I can't say, but she already been told, she already been warning. We met for 2 hours in the back room. I show her, I told her about all my situation, everything about my situation. I got punished hard for $10,000. My license take away for 1 month, which is gonna hurt the business very hard, which is hurting now. And you have to check everybody ID, you have to check the black and white, you have to check nobody in the town here to check black and white. The black and white, 99 cents, nobody. Nobody check ID for that Swisher City. I'm business owner, I'm telling you the truth. Nobody. I told her, check everything. She was doing that. You have that, and I stress her out. That's why she here, she can't tell. I'm not pushing her to tell whatever I said. I'm not pushing her, but she know I was doing that for her because she listening. I told her, if you're not doing your job right, like I said in the message, you're gonna be fired. I'm not playing no more. I don't want to lose my business. The beer in the gas station is no beer in the gas station is the same as no gas. Same thing. You don't have a beer, you don't have a gas. So how about have a gas station not gonna work without gas? That's very important for business. I know I'm not selling a lot of beer, but I have to have there. So I was concerned my business when I left from here, and I went there. I told the other two girls, one of them she's doing very well, Miss Robin Bradley, and Becca she fell one time, and now she's very good now. So I put a sign hiring. I got about 15 people. I don't feel comfortable about them. This here, I can't say, I don't know if they're legal to say or not, but I can find decent help here in this town. About the other stores, I'm gonna just tell a small story. I am the only store working without family. All of them, they work families. Families like sisters, brothers, sons, fathers, mothers. I'm only store working by myself, and I hire people from United States. They not hire anybody because they work with the own. That's why they not feel a lot like me. So, like Mr. Colby said, I can't be in the store 18 hours. I can't. There's too much to do. I have to get some stuff from Nashville, from Colombia, from everywhere, talking with the vendors, do this, taxes, gas, paperwork. I have to have 3 people and 1 covering. To cover the 18 hours, the 18 is about 119 hours a week. So 119 with excuses, sick, my kid, so I have to have 3 and 1 covered. So when I went from here, I fired John and I fired Brenda. It's not Becca, it's Brenda. Brenda, she used to work with me for 5 years. 5 years. But I saw her, she keep doing that. So she got 5 times, right? 5 times Brenda. Yeah, 5 times. So I fired Brenda, I fired John. I was sad to fire John, but you asked me to fire John. I was sad to fire John, but I have to fire John. So I said, well, go. So I choose her because she have 5 kids, which is these kids, they stay with her grandmama, and she's homeless. I got her a place to stay. You can ask her. We ride her to the work. We did everything to her. Whereas she been warning. She can't tell you. You can ask her. She been warned very hard. I stress her very hard. I'm trying to tell I was doing my job and over my job too. I am by myself run the store. Any store you can run any store like my store by yourself. You have to have like brother, sister, father, sons. I don't have it. I live here with my wife, no kids, because I don't have time for kids. Believe I don't have time. It's stress. So when I go there, I spend about maybe 5 hours in the morning, do everything, get stuff, blah, see everything, and back, just get some food, watching the camera when I eat it, and then I go back for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. Then I go back in the closing time to take the money, because the money can be there. This is gas money, which I don't own the gas money. Other thing, I work with TriStar Company. TriStar Company is very, very respectable company for 12 years. TriStar, they not accept any not respectable people. I have been with them for 12 years, no problems, because they know how I do in my business.
The question that I asked was,
Yes,
how come you're not carding everybody? And I haven't gotten an answer yet. Kyle, how many times has he violated selling to minors?
What? That's a bunch, all right.
6 at least. 5 or
6?
6.
Yeah, more.
Yeah, I'm kind of through with excuses here.
So, Mr. Baxter,
Either fix it. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Tony,
we
I'm
can
sorry.
we can fix it, but
Yeah,
we
doesn't sound like you
can't make them focus 8 hours, and you can't be over the head 8 hours. And if they do it today, very good. Tomorrow, next week, the week after, how about next month? How you sure your employees they gonna card everybody for 2 months? How?
So, Mr. Baxter, are you committed to being a responsible vendor? I mean, I know what Mr. Bador has said, but I want to ask you, are you committed to that?
I don't understand.
Are you committed to doing whatever it takes to make sure you don't do it again?
Are you certified?
I scream in their faces 2 times, and they told me this is not legal to scream in our faces. This is not respect.
I think the
So
question, I think the question is, are you certified currently by the State Tennessee ABC Board as a certified vendor?
Yes, Mr. Bass has taken the class. The ABC doesn't have any sort of thing. You take the class, you tell them you've done it, and then you're certified.
Yeah.
According to the statute, you have to wear a name badge, but that's what's required. And yes, I've got all their certifications here. Ms. Henry has not yet completed.
Yeah.
The statute allows her 61 days to do that.
Yeah.
So as a store owner, permit holder, he is certified by the state of Tennessee as a responsible vendor.
It's not necessarily as a store owner.
Well, I mean, it's called a responsible vendor certification. Is that what we have? A responsible vendor certification?
Yes.
Mr. Adele Basta, congratulations. You have successfully completed the Top Shelf program. This certification represents your understanding of the important role you play in the safety of your guests, customers, and community through responsible alcohol service. Okay, so this is his individual certification and certified as a designated manager trainer. No, trainers are online. Okay, that's how he received it. Okay.
The only person yet to receive the training and the certification that is employed by Mr. Basta is Ms. Henry.
Yeah.
So she has also received?
Not yet. No,
Not yet,
she's
not
got,
yet, because she is
this sting occurred the first day she was of her employment.
Yeah.
She was hired on August the 11th. They came in and bought on August the 11th. Look, I don't like this. I don't like this either. Yeah, I know y'all don't like it. I don't like it either.
I got a question for our attorney. And that if not the store owner, but say his employee, if they sell alcohol to an underage minor and they go out and have an accident, is that employee held responsible for that child being in an accident?
Could be. We have dram shop laws where if someone serves to someone intoxicated or someone underage, and there's an injury from that, they could be held liable.
So that's what I thought. Because, like I said earlier, the #1 killer in the state of Tennessee for teenagers is driving drunk. Now let's just say that this child go out and be involved in an accident. But I heard Mr. Badua said in our last meeting, we don't want to hinder his ability to make a living. Well, if a child goes out and get involved in an accident, we done hinder that family ability to make a living, because somebody gotta take care of that child. Because now they don't have the ability to walk or drive or do anything they normally would do. What about their family? And we're lucky that the chief and the sheriff, then we got Joe here, is not talking to a family about a child being in a bad accident, or worse, killed. That's what I'm looking at.
Bessie, I agree 1,000%.
And I think we done gave this gentleman all the chances that I'm not gonna say deserved, we done gave him more chances than he deserved. And whatever action this board take, need to be harsh and swift, in my opinion.
I have a question.
Yes.
I, along with a few others here, remember hearing that he is not a responsible vendor 2 weeks ago. When I look at that certification, it has an expiration date of 8/24 next year.
Yes.
When was it issued?
8/6. So last
2 weeks ago, yeah.
It was before we were here last time. He and all his employees took the course before we were here last time. If you refer to the statute that talks about what's required, it's that you take the course that's approved by the ABC, which he's done, and then you tell the commission who all's taking it. Wear a name badge. That's been done. There's no like certificate that comes in the mail. There's nothing of that sort.
So is it issued on a yearly basis?
The coursework is required to be taken annually. So like if I'm a
It
clerk,
has to be
right,
it has to be reviewed or renewed annually.
That's right. So every year, that's why it expires. Every year, whoever he employs has to take it again.
I have a question also, for Mike, please. I don't mean to make light of this at all, but it's interesting to me that Bad Habits, HP, and Bull Market have also been selling to minors. Now, how many times have you cited those markets? Do you know?
The last time I cited those were vapes. I did an operation where we buy nothing but vapes. That was in 2022.
Okay.
So as far as beer, this would be our first time, I guess, I've had to deal with those on just beer. Now, I got Bad Habits and all of them last time with vapes, but not beer. I didn't buy it.
But that point is, they're all against the law.
Correct.
And the vapes are being sold to minors, is that correct?
Correct.
So, how many times have you cited them for this? These other bad habits?
Bad habits. I did one operation, well, actually I did every store in the county and the city. I did them all. And so I cited, it was back in 2022, and I don't remember how many of them I got Bad Habits, I got Bull Market, H&P, East College Market, which I did all those this time with alcohol, and they passed. Except for the ones here, Bad Habits and Bull Market and H&P, they're the ones that fail on the alcohol part.
Ms. Miles, keep in mind that the beer board can only enforce beer sales.
Yes.
The vape, I assume, would be a federal statute, and that would have to go through Chancery Court. But y'all would have no jurisdiction over vapes, to my knowledge.
No, this is really more for my own personal information, because it does seem to me like when Mike, I'm sorry, I don't remember your last name.
Thompson.
When he says, that he has done stings on these other places, and we're finding that there are similar kinds of problems. I'm saying, I don't mean to relieve Mr. Basta, but seems to me like that's some of our problem if we are not doing anything about these things happening elsewhere in the community. Mr. Basta just happens to be, the one that we've gotten right now. I don't mean to take away from what's happened. That's not a good thing. Simply not a good thing. But,
I think at this time, it would be pertinent to turn to your city attorney, because there's a state statute that covers this now that it has come to light that Mr. Basta is a responsible vendor. It clearly defines your limitations of the actions you can take today. So Andy, would you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I was also under the impression, as we heard at the last meeting, that they were not a responsible vendor. And we've talked with MTAS this morning, and MTS says that if he is not a responsible vendor, this statute does not apply. But if he is, it does. And let me just read you this. I sent this out as an email, but let me visit it again. TCA 57-5-608, suspension, revocation of a beer permit when the vendor, the store, is part of the responsible vendor program. A permit under this part may not be suspended or revoked by a beer board based on a clerk's illegal sale of beer to a minor person who is not of lawful drinking age. If the clerk is properly certified and has attended annual meetings since the original certification, and I'm not sure that has happened, but the second part has, or is within 61 days of the date of hire at the time of the violation. And she was on her first day and third day, I think. So in that case, you're limited to a fine if indeed they are a responsible vendor.
Maximum fine.
Maximum fine of $1,000?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's right. It was $1,500 later on, but that's on a different violation they would have, so it'd be $1,000 right now, $2,500 if not a responsible vendor. But also, if not a responsible vendor, you could suspend.
So, Mr. Hoover, in today's proceedings, we have a single action before this board, which is violation of probation.
Correct.
All the previous violations have been...
They were addressed at the
They were
last
addressed
meeting.
and punished by suspension, fine, and probation. Now, okay, I understand that part of the code, but here's kind of the next level, and I think our hands are tied because the only single action we can take today, since they have the responsible vendor certifications, is a violation of the clerk and that $1,000 fine. But what we can also do is report Mr. Basta's business and request that his responsible vendor status be revoked by the
Correct.
ABC. According to the statute, we can ask that the violations have come to a sum that responsible vendor status has been violated. Now, that doesn't mean we can extend the actions of today's hearing, which if I understand you right, we're basically bound to a single recourse.
Yes, in fact, we've
For this
talked about
violation.
MTS twice, and they were careful the second time to point out, be sure they're not a responsible vendor.
Okay.
If they are, they have this safe harbor. But as you're right, Mr. Keith, you can contact this is one of the few things that beer has where the ABC does get involved.
Right.
And they will keep, in essence, a registry of responsible vendors who have violated the statute. And then it's up to the ABC, unfortunately not us, that they can revoke the responsible vendor status. If that is revoked, then a sale by someone who is not the permit holder but an employee at the store can only result in a fine to the permit holder. But if the permit holder, although this one I think is an entity, were to make the sale, then you could have the revocation.
This is critical for a couple of reasons. It really does tie our hands for a civil action. I feel like there should be criminal actions that could be taken beyond this, but that's law enforcement to deal with. But we're gonna be addressing 3 other markets after today, after Mr. Thomas cites the other 2 in the previous one. So we've got to get this right. And I think challenging the responsible vendor program is, in Mr. Basta's case, is absolutely necessary. And we don't know if these other 3 have it. But if our hands are going to be tied by the code, we need to work within that, unfortunately.
Yes, the clerk can actually be charged criminally, and likely will. They'll go to state court on that. And you're right, our code, our ordinance 8-226 will limit it to $1,000 civil penalty for a responsible vendor.
If we revoke his responsible vendors.
We can't revoke it. We can ask the ABC to put it on their registry, and then they could choose to revoke.
But we have to then present all of the violations to this point to them.
Correct. And they make a determination.
I'd like to make a motion that we do exactly what we're talking about, fine him $1,000 and send a letter to the ABC.
Well, that's the only way we can bring everything else that we've already
Okay.
charged him for back into play,
Okay.
is to the ABC board.
But what if we
And I
got
would
to be again
second
in
that.
2 weeks? What about that?
Well, it will depend on the clerk. If it is a clerk that has been working there longer than 61 days, then you won't have this safe harbor that's here. However, if they have started the application for that clerk to receive responsible vendor, and because the permit holder is a responsible vendor, then you're going to be limited to fines on that. This is a statute that was pushed hard by wholesalers to protect.
Well, and it needs to be questioned too, because obviously they issued a responsible vendor certification to a violator.
Correct.
A repeat offender.
Correct.
And I don't want to muddy the waters any more than they already are, but I don't want to misrepresent to anything of this board either. Because I've known all of you for a long time, and quite frankly, that's important to me. The ABC doesn't maintain a repository of responsible vendors where beer is concerned. They just don't. They say, under the statute, here's a list of the courses you can take. Once you do, you're a responsible vendor. That's it. So, there's a lot of talk about the ABC here. I don't know what happens.
Well, it says that they can, that the responsible vendor status can be revoked by the Alcoholic Beverage Commission.
Right. I'm just saying, we've had, as it related to all this, my office had numerous exchanges with the ABC, and they basically tell us, if you're not selling beer, wine, if you're not selling alcohol or wine, spirits or wine, we're not interested.
Okay.
So, all I'm telling you is he's done everything under the statute.
Somewhere where somebody's printing off certifications. We just got to find that person.
I suppose. We obtain these certifications from the training program, okay? The ABC doesn't issue a certification. You comply, and under the statute,
Okay.
you're a responsible vendor.
I think they do have a listing.
They've got to have something if they can revoke it.
Because a MTS legal consultant told me to call, and I did, and they told me to talk with Tabitha Blackwell with the ABC.
Okay. Well, all I know is Mr. Bass has done everything to be a responsible vendor, but as far as what the ABC have told us, there's nothing that we're supposed to do with them. There's no application, there's no meeting that they'll hold to determine if we have that status or not. So I didn't want to leave anything unclear here as far as where we were.
And to clarify what Andy has told you, and I've talked with the MTS legal consultant over in Knoxville, and they referred me to ABC, could not get in touch with them. They called back Mr. Hoover's in my office, and if they are a responsible vendor, which he's provided proof that he is, and this employee's been employed less than 61 days, your hands are tied to limiting a $1,000 fine. That's all you can do. What you can, since this is the second offense, you can refer this to the ABC board and see what actions they can take.
And you can certainly make
And
any,
it was seconded.
certain recommendations, just as Mr. Bryant did, that we can't require you, but we would encourage you to ID everybody. You as the beer board can offer that guidance to any permit holder.
And just to that point, Mr. Hoover, as his counsel, I have offered that guidance. It doesn't matter if they're crippled, 85 years old, check them. There's no point in not. But there again, he's not hiring PhDs to work second shift at Honeysuckle Market, okay?
It doesn't take PhDs to read.
I agree, I agree. But, I agree.
Yeah.
And if, you know,
Yeah, I have a question for Andy.
Yes.
We send this letter to the ABC, request them to revoke the certification, and they do, assuming they do. That takes him into a different side of that statute.
Takes him right back to where he was a month ago.
And at that point.
Subject to revocation.
Subject to revocation.
On a new offense.
On a new offense. Right. In my opinion, not if it happens, but it's gonna happen. I made that prediction 2 weeks ago, and it did.
You told me that.
Yeah, told several of you that. It happened again, and it will happen again. So it's gonna be important that the ABC revokes that.
We're just lucky that we're sitting up here, like I said before, that we hadn't had John, or Joey, or Mike, or Kyle talking to the family about a bad accident because an unresponsible person sold alcohol to a minor. That gets me, that's what I don't understand. How hard is it to check an ID? If one of the officers pull us over, we either got an ID to show them or we don't. And I guarantee you, they're gonna go by the book and they're gonna look at it and tell us whether we're free to go or you need to make an appearance. It's just not hard in our book. How hard is it to check an ID? That's what gets me. And we're gonna be right back up here again discussing the same thing. And like I said, I just hope a child don't go out here and get hurt, because we lucky that hadn't happened. I mean, that just bothers me. That's all right, go ahead.
Ms. Miles, if you want to make one, then we need to move.
Well, challenging the responsible vendor with the ABC, is there a time limit that we have that they will respond? We can expect response, or is this just gonna be, we send it to them and,
I think you send them a letter. And it's going to be, you know, obviously they're gonna review it. Do they revoke it while someone was in there 61 days of employment or not? I don't know. I don't know how ABC will look at that. But that's.
Well, let me share this with you, and this is what it says. And I think we need to make this a formal action. As a beer board, we find Mr. Basta guilty of violation of probation on 2 counts of selling beer to a minor, because it says that under the Tennessee Code 5608, the Alcoholic Beverage Commission shall revoke a vendor status as a responsible vendor upon notification by the beer board that the board has made a final determination that the vendor has sold beer to a minor for the second time in a consecutive 12-month period. The revocation shall be for 3 years. So that's what the ABC board will do once they're notified by us that this violation has happened.
The other thing I'd encourage you to keep in mind is that it wasn't Mr. Basta, the permit holder. And permit holder is a term of art used in that statute. Mr. Basta is a permit holder. Ms. Henry was the one that committed the violation. Now, I know she is his agent, and I'm not trying to distinguish from that the buck stops with him, so to speak. But at the end of the day, I just would hope that whatever you find today, whatever findings you make today, accurately reflect that it was the clerk, Ms. Henry, not necessarily the permit holder, Mr. Basta, because that is what the facts have shown today.
That's certainly the point that's presented. Your statute says that the permit holder makes a sale or allows a sale.
Exactly.
So you would need to address, in my opinion, whether he allowed this sale.
All right. We had a motion made earlier by Mr. Bryant. Would you like to make your motion again?
Yeah, and it was seconded by Mr. King. I made the motion that we fine him $1,000 and send a recommendation to the ABC board to revoke his license.
And are you also proposing to find him guilty of violation by allowing the sale of beer?
Twice.
understand that. Yes.
We have a motion made by Mr. Bryant, and
I second it.
we have a second by Mr. Keith. Is there any other discussion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'd like to say that, I'd like to correct a little something that Investigator Thompson said is, Pulaski is Giles County, and we will continue operations. He said that, you know, he did not have any buys in the county and in the city. The only difference is you have a beer board and the county has a beer board. And we will continue our operations and we'll be back. And if we would have violations in we would have took it to the county beer board. So just wanted to get that out there.
Yes, sir.
And he worked on my demand of what I want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other discussion?
Yeah. Well, let's do this and then I'll ask a question later.
Roll call vote.
Massey.
Aye.
Miles.
I'm pass for right now.
Worsham.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Gentry. Bryant.
Aye.
Friendly.
Aye.
Miles.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we have anybody else come before the beer board today?
I think Mr. Keith has a comment.
Go ahead, and I'll have one.
Well, I had a question, and I'm gonna ask this now that Kyle, you're here, and Chief Dickey, and just to help us understand, because we've tried to have this conversation and none of us can really get an answer. What are the procedures and possibilities of criminal charges against the permit holder? Is there a next step that we can take to make criminal charges against the permit holder who allows underage beer sales?
You can, and I mean, that's the way the statute reads.
Okay, well, how do we do that?
As far as charging the
Yeah,
permit holder.
and I guess my question is, why have we not done that yet? If there's been this many violations by clerks, why have we not made criminal charges against the permit holder?
Well, one, I mean, that would be the call of the one that's doing the charging, but that needs to coincide with what the local district attorney will charge. It's certainly by no means.
And that's what I'm asking.
Right, it's a lot easier.
We're being asked this, and I don't know the answer.
And it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to charge the clerk because that's a gimme. I mean, that was a hand-to-hand deal. But to be able to prove that the permit holder permitted it by not just the fact that they worked there.
Well,
from the criminal
what about
side.
just criminal negligence?
Right, from the criminal side, I mean, but you still have the elements of, hey, what was their intent to allow that to happen? And we can discuss it all day as far and agree or not to agree, but it's all going to lie in the hands, and me and Mike discussed that about him getting with the district attorney and saying, hey, is that something he would consider based on what we got of holding Mr. Baxter more accountable through the criminal court as opposed coming before this beer board?
Well, and the reason I'm asking is, I mean, we're limited to either suspension, revocation from a civil action, but I mean, if it's repeated over and over and over again, there's criminal negligence at least, if not complicit, that needs to be addressed, in my opinion.
It does.
And I'm just asking, how can we do
There are
it?
some processes that you can have a business closed, that those steps can, if this continues, that will be my step to try to have his business closed, if he doesn't correct it.
Well, and I mean, we can cripple that with a revocation when we're in a position to do so, if we get this responsible vendor status out of the way, which, again, I'm not sure how I got it anyway, but that's neither here nor there.
You know, not to prolong this, but just to clarify something. First of all, the way this has done and has sort of transgressed over the last few years, of course, we was hindered with COVID that put everything to a halt for a long time. When they started doing that out in the county, the biggest complaint that they had for the most part was with the vapes. that had personally, you know, approached Kyle about it or whatever, about the vapes and then some alcohol. Now, you gotta realize, this gentleman wasn't singled out of everybody else other than as far as a sting goes, because in a sting you just hit random and try to get include as most everybody that you can possibly include in that. But we was having individual complaints lodged at this particular business. So that's how we got to where we are now. But once again, and then too, as far as, you know, everybody looks at it and says, well, hey, cumulative, it's a problem of everybody. You know, we all sharing that okay, we got teenagers out here that are buying underage. And we do, and we always have, and you say, well, why ain't the police or y'all doing something in the city, can't whatever about it? But here's the thing, and we do when we do it, but you gotta realize this, that, you know, when you put these things together, you have a A to Z form that you gotta really follow to put in place. And you beat your brains out to hold people accountable of things, and then the legislature turns around and provides loopholes with this vendor certification. I don't blame people for taking advantage of that safe harbor, but they do. And then again, we can take his license from this store down here, and he can have a license across the street, and you can't deny it. So, I mean, so the behavior's still there. It's just like the way the laws read. You correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but the way the laws read, well, it ain't that you've done so much wrong, you just did it wrong here. You can still carry on over here as long as you don't do it wrong, but every time you do it wrong, we're going to take you away from that location, but you go somewhere else.
But if we tag that individual with a criminal charge, they're not going to go across the road and do it again. I guess that's my question.
You start getting the felons,
and I get that it's complicated, but
it's complicated. And in fact, the strangest one I've seen is that a beer board cannot use the sale to a minor at another location to deny a beer permit at another location by that same person.
See,
and that makes no sense.
Kyle hit on something that I was really concerned about, and that I really want. He said, if this continues to happen again, they can make a recommendation to have his business closed. What will it take to do that?
I think we would have.
I don't know that you want to get into that here. I mean, look, there's a lot of moving parts for a public nuisance. For a public nuisance, that can go on for days.
I'll just say this, and I'll sit down. Our ultimate goal is for everybody to be in compliance. That's our ultimate goal. We're not picking on his business. But like I said, this is Giles County, but we will continue these operations. Hopefully, this will be the end of it. Our ultimate goal is not for anybody to sell legally. That's all we want is compliance. So, thank you.
Tony had a question, Kyle. Tony had a question, and I did too. Can we limit the hours of sale with a violation?
I don't know. That would be something that you would have to go through your attorney.
I don't know that we could any more than it already is limited.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Didn't that change when
liquor by the drink?
Okay, it changed with liquor by the drink, but that's only if you have a liquor by the drink permit. There are some time allocations in the statute, and I'll be happy to get copies of that to everybody.
Okay.
Mr. Worsham had something.
Yeah, I just want to have one comment. I want to see these three businesses that Investigator Thomason also caught violating brought to the beer board ASAP. I want to understand, but when we come to that beer board meeting, are they responsible vendors or not?
Well, just keep in mind, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat it or anything, but my understanding was these three that you mentioned in the city, the H&P, the Bull Market, and Bad Habits. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this the first go around with alcohol? Correct. Okay. So that's fine too, but I'm just saying, you know, because I remember you permitted me with his first violation, and a lot of times we brought him in and talked to him and whatever. I don't know how you want to set a precedent on that. But if you want to bring every time there's a violation, bring it before the beer board, we can make it happen.
Let me say this right here, and we need to end. But from now on, if we have someone being cited, as Mr. Worsham said, we need to know about it. And we need to address that we have to do it to everyone.
Yeah.
And Mr. Basta, we don't want to be here again. This is wasting a lot of people's time, and it's uncalled for, and it's pathetic. And we've been lenient to you. We've tried to work with you. We don't want to see you back up here. You need to do it. If you got to work those 18 hours a day, start working 18 hours. And we've got to fix this.
Yeah.
All right. If no more come before the board day, we'll stand as adjourned.